Hello, friends. Welcome to Ask Ashley Live. I'm going to talk for about 10 minutes, and then if anybody wants to jump on and join, you can do so by using the link. Um, I'm pretty sure the link is in my comments on the YouTube video. If it is not, then you can join by going to my Facebook page, where in my live you can see the link to jump in live. So I'm going to talk for about 10 minutes, so there's some time to find that if you are interested. You can just listen in today, or you can come on and ask any questions you have. We can talk about your mental health, your child's mental health, or what you had for breakfast if you want. So feel free to jump in. You'll have a chance, if you click that link, you'll have a chance to go into a studio where you can check your mic, check your camera, make sure you look amazing, which I'm sure you do, and then you can jump in. So I'm just going to talk for about 10 minutes because I have something that I would love to share. So I often think about how our lives are 50-50. It's 50% comfortable, good emotions and 50% negative or uncomfortable emotions. And there are things that we can do to shift that 50-50 a little bit. Like we can practice gratitude, or we can really practice being present in those positive moments. And that shifts it a little bit more to the positive side. And then there are things that we all tend to believe, that can shift it the other direction, that can make those negative emotions more intense, and that can prolong them. And I think of those as the 4 lies that negative emotions tell us. And I'm going to go over those today. If this is your first time here, let me introduce myself quickly. I'm Ashley Jangro. I'm a mental wellness coach for moms and for kids of all ages. I'm the creator of the Mentally Strong Mom Method, which is my program that helps moms build the strength, learn the strategies, and get the support that they need to raise mentally strong kids. So, when I think of negative emotions, I think of any of those emotions that feel really uncomfortable in your body. Some are really valuable and necessary, like grief, for example. If we lose someone, if something terrible happens, we want to feel grief about that. And that grief feels okay because we understand this is something we want to have. We don't want to feel happy about that. But then there's so many negative emotions that are really unhelpful. That whereas grief may help us heal from something, things like overwhelm or worry or confusion, those feel negative in our bodies, and also they don't help us at all. They keep us spinning. They keep us from taking any positive action that would allow us to meet our goals in life, and they really just serve no purpose. They sometimes feel inevitable, but they serve no purpose in our lives. They're not helpful in any way. So these 4 lies that I'm going to talk about, again, intensify and prolong these emotions if we believe them, if we are aware of them, and we can kind of pull them out and stay aware of them when we're experiencing a negative emotion. Then it helps us to, again, shift back over to more of that 50% of our positive time. So the first lie that negative emotions tell us is that negative emotion is unbearable, that it is something we can't handle. And when we take the time to allow and process a negative emotion, it's not actually that bad. I think about this a lot. So if you imagine a feeling that you don't like, that is even terrible, and what it feels like in your body, take anxiety, for example. I experience anxiety often. I don't enjoy it. It doesn't feel good in my body. But when I actually think about it, and I think about, okay, what does it feel like in my body? My heart starts racing. My stomach feels nervous. My hands get clammy. I might break out in a sweat. It's not actually that bad. It's uncomfortable, but not unbearable. In fact, sometimes I realize that I intentionally create that emotions using movies. That emotion using movies. I was watching a scary movie with my daughter the other day, and there was this really scary scene happening. And all of a sudden, I realized this is the exact feeling I get when I'm experiencing anxiety. And I hate that feeling. But here I am watching a movie. And it was so funny because the movie ended, and we were like, okay, now what? And we were like, let's watch the sequel. So we clearly wanted to experience that emotion. And sometimes I think about the difference between when we're having an emotion in life and when we're having the emotion with a movie. And I'll get to that in just a second. But when you're in the moment experiencing an uncomfortable emotion like anxiety, if you can stop, give space to that emotion, allow it to be there, and process it. And I give a bunch of different ways you can process an emotion over on my YouTube channel. Then it's not actually unbearable. In fact, I've read studies in the past that say that when we do give space to an emotion and just allow it, it only lasts about 90 seconds. And that always blows my mind because I start thinking about how many bad decisions have I made to avoid 90 seconds of an uncomfortable situation, an uncomfortable sensation. So that always grabs my attention. So even though those emotions that we want, like grief, when we sit with them, when we allow them, when we don't avoid them or resist them, but just provide space and allow them in our lives, they're not unbearable. The second lie that those negative emotions tell us is that because they are unbearable, we must get rid of them at all costs and quickly. And when we do that, when we do resist them or avoid them or distract ourselves with something, then we confirm to our brains that negative emotion is in fact dangerous, that it's something that we must fight against. And this is how we intensify and prolong that emotion. So I always tell my one-on-one clients, we have an emotion right here like anxiety, and it's uncomfortable, but not in an unmanageable or unbearable way. When we start fearing it, when we start thinking we need to get rid of it quickly, the feeling becomes this big. The thoughts about our emotion become this big. And one of the things that my one-on-one clients do always tell me is that, sure, that emotion is not unbearable. I could sit there and feel that. But what I can't bear is my mind starts spinning out of control. All these thoughts come up that I cannot control. So if you're listening to this, it's pretty likely you're either a mom or a parent, or you've interacted with kids at some point. And I want to tell you, if that's the case, if you are a mom or a parent, then you can manage your brain. And I'll tell you why. Because if you have made it through the toddler years, if you've ever gone into a grocery store with a toddler and made it out, then you know how to manage your mind. And it's this one phrase that I use a lot, which is, we're not doing that today. If you're a parent, you can probably hear yourself saying that at some point. We're just not doing this today, okay? And that's what I say to my brain when I'm processing an intense emotion, when I'm sitting with it, when I'm finding it in my body and recognizing what it feels like so I can allow it to dissipate, so I can teach my brain it's not dangerous. All these thoughts come pouring in about how terrible my life is and how, it's all these truths that this emotion is revealing. And I just say, you know what? We're not doing that today. And then I can redirect my brain to either breathing, which is, giving my brain a job so it's not spinning out of control. So I can redirect it to my breathing, or I can redirect it to whatever it is that I want to spend my creative energy on, whatever it is I want to do with my life. I can say, we're not doing that today. Here's what we're going to think about instead. And I give my brain a job after I've processed that emotion. So the third lie that negative emotions tell us is that it is rooted in truth. I used to think that my emotions were revealing something to me, that they meant something. And sometimes this is true. Sometimes emotions can be a signal that we need to change something in our lives. Maybe our overwhelm is a signal that we need to start saying no to more things more often. But sometimes it's just an emotion and nothing more. And remember, I said it's always created. We have a thought in our brain, and then it generates an emotion in our body. And the vast majority of the time, that thought in our brain that's creating a negative emotion isn't even true. It is one of an infinite number of possible interpretations we could have about a situation. So if you think about a time that you had a negative emotion because you thought someone was rude to you or angry with you, and so you were frustrated or annoyed. If you go back and you think about what's another possible truth other than that person was being rude, or other than that person was mad at me, maybe they were distracted, maybe they were having a really difficult day. And you think about those different interpretations, and each thought that you choose to take away from a situation generates a different emotion in your body. Because those emotions drive our actions, they're really worth managing, because ultimately our actions turn into our lives and what our results are in our lives. So if you think about, okay, I'm having a really negative emotion right now. What thought am I having that's generating that emotion. And then you recognize that's one of an infinite number of possible interpretations of the situation. And I can pick a different interpretation to generate a different feeling, to drive different actions. So I'm getting different results in life. The fourth and final lie that negative emotions tell us is that they will last forever. And this is why I emphasize so often to my one-on-one clients that are moms to provide opportunities for their child to recognize what they're feeling, to recognize what it feels like in their body, even when it's a positive emotion. So there's times that they should ask their kids that when they're upset, but then even when their child's having a positive emotion, they say, what does that feel like in your body? Where does it sit? What does it look like? What color is it? And this is designed for so many reasons, but one of them is to help all of us, kids included, realize that emotions, unfortunately, even the really great ones, don't last forever. And this makes those moments of negative emotion a little bit more bearable and does not intensify and prolong them unnecessarily. So when we keep those 4 different lies in mind, negative emotions don't seem so incredibly unbearable, so necessary to escape, so true, and so long lasting. And so that's a way to, just allow those negative emotions to become manageable. And when they are manageable, you are consistently teaching your brain that they're not dangerous. Therefore, the next time that they show up, they're not so intense and so painful. So if this is the kind of thing you like listening to, if you want to hear more, I have a few options. You can follow me over on Instagram. I'm Ashley B. Jangro on Instagram. You can join my free online community, which is you can reach by going to momsquad.ashley.tube, or you can book a free strategy session where we can just talk about your unique situation and uncover what the issues are and come up with a plan for moving forward that is unique to your situation. You can do that by going to chat.ashley.tube. That one's hard to say, chat.ashley.tube. So you can get a hold of me any of those ways, or you can just reach out to me in my direct messages or comments in any of the videos. So I'm going to open this up. If anybody has questions, if anybody has comments, I can answer those now on either Facebook or YouTube. You can type them in. You can click the link that is in the description on this video on Facebook, and that will bring you into a studio where you can check your mic and your camera, and then you can jump on and ask questions. While I'm waiting to see if anybody does have questions, I just want to mention again that I'm still waiting. I still have one more spot open for my beta program for the Mentally Strong Mom Method, where, again, we focus in on mom's mental health so that she has the strength, the strategies, and support to be exactly what it is her child needs for any of their mental health struggles, or just to learn ways. Thank you, Monica, for commenting. I'm so happy that you're here watching. So that I just totally lost my train of thought too. Apparently I can't read comments and talk at the same time. But if it is something where you have kids and you want to prevent mental health struggles from coming up, if you want to learn strategies before the fact, then Mentally Strong Mom Method is for you too. So we're starting the beta program. We're kicking off January 31st, which is a Monday. So I'd love to have you involved. You can reach out to me, just type in the word interested in any of my private messages, or you can send me an email at ashley@ashleyjangro.com and let me know you're interested. So Monica, because I know your unique situation, I'm wondering if you're talking about right now or if you're talking about in general. And if you're talking about in general, and you mentioned the word violently angry. So when there's a moment of violence, that's a little bit different because safety is top priority there. So if there's a moment where you're in danger, where your son's actually in danger, then that is a little bit different than what I'm going to recommend. If your son is angry, oh, I see. I can see more comments. So Monica asked, I can show this, but let me see. This is the first time I'm showing that. So it's saying, how can I calm my violently angry son down in the moment? No, not now. A 9-year-old. I wonder how, I can take that down. So I think that this is really a useful question because I have a young child who gets angry sometimes. And one of the things that we have practiced longer term, so in the moment, I stay with her. I do not say, how can we fix this? I do not say, here are the reasons you should not be angry. I stay with her and I'm like, you seem really angry. Tell me about it. What does that feel like? I can see that you're angry on your face. Talk to me about what that feels like in your body. Where are you feeling it? And then once they've had the opportunity to calm down a little bit, once they've had the opportunity to allow that to be there and to process that, and I ask the questions. Fortunately, at 9, your child might not be irritated with you yet in the same way a teenager might be. So you can ask, if you could picture a color of that anger, what color would it be? Does it move around in your body? Is it like fast, like a snake slithering around in your body, or is it slow, like a sloth? Is it heavy? Like if you could take it out, is it heavy? Or is it moving around so fast in your body that it's like airy like? So I'd ask those questions, and that's allowing your child a couple different things. First is to create that mind-body connection. This is such a critical component to resilience, to mental wellness. So it's helping them do that. And second, it's giving them the time to process. And if I see that anger, if I see that tension start to come up again, I'll remind my daughter, let's breathe into it. Find it again. Where is it? Take your breath there and breathe into it. And none of this feels natural as a parent because sometimes when our kids get angry, it brings up some emotion. And Monica, you can say if this is true for you, it brings up some emotion in us. We're like, excuse me? Why do you have any right to be angry? And that's where it comes in so handy to be able to manage our own emotions and our own thoughts in the moment so that we can really focus in on what they're experiencing. And I just remind myself, it's this similar to what I just said about, I tell my brain, we're not going there right now. We can deal with that later. And I think to myself, this is about him and this is his moment right now. In my case, it's about her and her moment. So I just stay with her and I'm like, I can see that anger, friend. Tell me about it. What is it like? And then they can calm down. One of the things, because they are in a specific because they're at a specific age, they're at a developmental level that makes it more difficult for them to come back to that rational thinking from their emotional place. We have our fully formed prefrontal cortex, so we're able, and that fully formed connection between the two. So we're able to do that a little differently. Because our kids are where they are with their brain, the way their brains have formed, they don't have that capability in the same way we do. So it's part of our job to teach that and to help create that connection there. So helping them develop that mind-body connection by finding the emotion. Once it's passed, then I have a conversation with my daughter about her anger. And I talk to her about it, like, tell me about what that feels like when you're in the moment. We actually did this last week where she named it. I can't remember. It was like Frankie or something that she named her anger. And it was like a little fuzzy red ball with spikes on it with, big eyes that would just stare her down when she's angry. And I was like, wow, I can totally picture Frankie. Tell me what it feels like when Frankie's there. And she tells me, I feel like I don't have any control. I feel like I can't calm down. So we talk through all those things. I think this is super valuable later. And then when she was in an angry moment again later in the week, she was like, Mom, I can feel it. It's Frankie's taking over. And I was like, perfect. Let's give your brain a job to direct breath to Frankie. And let's just allow him to be there. In fact, let's ask him, what do you want right now, Frankie? What is it? And again, this is not easy as moms because like you said, Monica, I want to yell right along with him. And that's the temptation. So it is important to pull out of our own moment and decide, okay, I'll handle that later. And then we have the opportunity later to say, okay, what was coming up for me that made me so angry? When you have practiced consistently breathing into your emotion, allowing it to be there, recognizing this isn't a problem that I feel angry, but I'm going to choose not to react to it, then it is easier, as you know, Monica, in those moments. If you practice it when the moments are not intense, it becomes easier in the moments to pull out of that. So I think I answered your question. I think in the moment, I get completely focused on the child, let it be their moment, help them recognize what does that anger feel like in your body. And then later we talk about it and teach about it. Later, I might also say, okay, what are those thoughts that were making you angry? And often my daughter will tell me, this person was so mean to me. They said these really mean words. And I'm like, okay, I hear that. What are some other possible explanations of why that person may have said those things to you? And we come up with other ideas. Thank you so much for commenting, Monica. Monica's letting me know she has to go. So I will stop talking about that. If anybody else has any other questions, I'm happy to answer them, or if you want to jump on. Otherwise, I will wrap this up. I'm hoping that the comments on YouTube are working as well. So again, I just want to remind you that if you are interested in being part of that cohort for the Mentally Strong Mom Method, just reach out to me on any platform and just type the word interested, and I will send you all the details about it. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. I'm so happy to be here today. Thank you for commenters. Thank you for asking questions. And I am here every single week, Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. And I'll see you next week.